Hey everybody, I'm Karen. I'm here to read from my book, Bring Me Back, which is right here. I hope you've read it. If you haven't, you should read it. I think you should. A few people on Twitter had suggested that I read an excerpt from the book and record it and put it on my blog. So, yeah, I always do everything that people on Twitter ask me to do. So, that's why I'm here. I am going to read the beginning of chapter 2, which is when Claire Abbey arrives in New York to interview Christopher Penman, the British rock star she was obsessed with in high school. And I will preface all of this by saying I am not going to do a British accent because that would be a disaster. So you'll just have to sort of put that in your own head as I'm reading. Okay, here we go. Patrick's assistant had arranged for a car to pick me up at LaGuardia Airport, and the driver greeted me with a funny brush of a mustache and a dry erase sign with my name on it. I focused on the one positive thing I could come up with to keep my mind from settling on the idiotic enormity of what I was about to do. At least I was on the ground. I'd planned to use the time in the car to go over my notes, but found myself hopelessly distracted by the city. The commotion, a busy tempo unlike any other place. I used to say that I wished I lived in New York, but that seemed like an empty statement now. I'd never really wished it. I'd only thought it sounded like something a music writer should do. Returning to my task, all I could do was fret over the sequence of my questions. 3 hours was a very small window in which to earn Christopher's trust and get him to do the improbable, betray his biggest secrets on the record. I had to ease him into things carefully, but quickly. The car arrived at the Hotel Rivington on the Lower East Side before I could complete my last-minute cramming. It was a bizarre-looking building, a modern grid of steel and glass, a colorless Mondrian skirted by brownstones, the site of the interview and my home for the next 24 hours. The driver held my door open and I slipped him a 5. "Thank you, Miss Abbey," he said, as I nearly tripped over the curb. The cold gripped my shoulders and the doorman rushed to let me in. There was no time for my eyes to adjust from late morning on the street to the softly lit lobby before my surroundings faded and my vision focused on a point. The image ahead left me considering an abrupt turn on my heel and a swift escape. There he sat, no more than 10 feet away, reading the New York Times while wearing silvery sunglasses. I decided he must be napping because he didn't strike me as the type to read the Times. He wore an artfully distressed pair of jeans and a black t-shirt under a tan canvas jacket, much too light for such a cold day. His short, chestnut brown hair was arranged into a tousled mess. I mulled over my best approach, and then he confounded me a second time by making eye contact, through the sunglasses no less, folding his paper and striding toward me. I looked behind me, assuming he must recognize someone else. "You must be Miss Abbey," he held out his hand. "Chris Penman." Countless thoughts and questions erupted in my head. Wow, I'm glad I wore heels. He's tall. His accent is different in person. It's like butter, British butter. Did I remember perfume this morning? Oh crap, my breath. Ugh. I should have had a piece of gum in the car. Are my hands clammy? Why do they always get that way when I'm nervous? Yes. Oh, Claire, I offered my sweaty hand. Please, thank you, hi. Cotton Candy had graciously stepped in to take over for my saddled brain. "Oh, great, it's Claire then." He cocked his head to the side. "Please, call me Chris. I Googled you this morning and found a photo. I like to know what I'm up against." He chuckled, removed his sunglasses, and shook my hand in one seamless movement. I caught a glimpse of his eyes, and everything turned syrupy. I began searching for words, an intelligent response, and it happened. I became tangled up in his eyes, drawn into them because my mind was convinced there was nowhere else to go. The color was so astounding that it deserved its own name. Calling them green would have been so dismissive. It couldn't begin to capture the hypnotic nature of the hue. Apple, forest, grass, jade, emerald, moss, clover. Somewhere there had to be a name for his green. And that's it. So bye. Thanks for listening.